there. Welcome to Thursday Thoughts with that Ed Law lady. Today, we're going to be discussing why educational reform is not justice. So our topic today is reform is not justice. Simply point blank, period. Fight me about it. Not really, because I don't really fight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nkoyo F. Young. I'm the principal attorney at the F. Young firm. We are an education firm focused on advocating for educational equity and economic justice alongside communities of color. And so we do that in a couple of ways. One, we show up for parents and helping teach moms in particular how to advocate effectively for their children in school, specifically if they have children with special needs. And we also represent families that are going through school discipline hearings to help make sure that they have the best option available to them, which we truly believe is in the traditional classroom. We also provide legal subscription services for charter schools and independent schools, along with other education nonprofits, any organizations that are working in and around the education space, either to equip parents or teachers, etc. We provide legal services to them to ensure that they're able to keep equity and excellence at the forefront without having to worry about their legal risk. So that's just a little bit about me and my firm. Today, let's get into this and talk about why reform is not justice. And what I want to say, I got to this place, one, by reading Dr. Bettina Love's book, We Want to Do More Than Just Thrive. And I was kicked in the gut, sucker punched, whatever you want to call it, when I got to this part very early on in her book, actually talking about what we need in education if we're really actually truly pursuing justice. And I left the classroom. I was a fourth grade teacher for a few years, coached teachers, and actually went to pursue law on the basis of ensuring that we were actually getting towards justice. But I also have spent a long time being a reformer, thinking all the little ways in which we can tweak this or tweak that to get to the next best outcome. But I truly believe, with the likes of the Michelle Alexanders of the world, that incremental change is no change. This whole we need to wait, we can't go fast, we can't wreck stuff, we can't rebuild it, is just, in my opinion, asinine. We're watching in the technology space how innovators, disruptors, etc. are coming in and completely altering the way that things are done, and everybody survives, and in fact people adjust and adapt. And I think, COVID-19 is a perfect example of that, right? No, we can't use technology. We can never go digital. We can never move some of our practices online. And just like that, almost overnight, businesses, schools, etc. had to figure out how to exist on a digital platform. And so I truly believe that there's no time right now to actually start having these conversations and really pushing. And I think that, against both the global pandemic that is COVID-19 and the racial pandemic that we have been continuing to suffer under, there is a lot of appetite, in my opinion, for change that is not incremental, for lack of better words. Change that moves rapidly, actually seeing something different tomorrow and not for my children's children. So with that, I say, a lot of what we're doing in the reform space is playing around with the structure as it already is. And I actually had the opportunity to be a participant or a listener on a panel put on by Black on Black Ed. I think that their handle is at Black on Black Ed, if you want to follow them on Instagram, etc., where they were talking about what would it look like to have a super school. And I know a lot of people are talking right now about reimagining education in our schools, and I'm here for that conversation. I feel like it's actually a decade or several old or behind, overdue, but I'm glad we're at least here now really thinking about it. But my main problem with reform is that we can't fix something that's fundamentally flawed. So like I said, I was on the Zoom call listening, because that's what I've endeavored to do in this season, to listen more, to make sure that my privilege as a well-educated Black woman is not overshouting and overpowering the needs of others. I don't want to fall into the Brown v. Board mistake of choosing a strategy that benefits the few at the expense of the many. So I've been really trying to listen, like, what is going on? What is it that people need? What are people hearing? And how can I use my experience as an attorney to move things forward in whatever way that I can, given the diverse experiences that I've had. And so I was on there, and one of the speakers, Sharif, mentioned that we would never reform slavery, right? We weren't having a conversation about, maybe we could do this instead of that. Like, maybe we'll only have auction blocks every third Tuesday. Maybe that'll be better for those who are enslaved. Like, we talked about abolishing it. We talked about recasting and creating something else. And I know people get really scared when we talk about, like, throwing out our education system and recasting, reimagining, structuring it from the ground up. But I truly think that that is what is needed. That is actually what is demanded of a 21st century education system, because we no longer have the ability to predict what things are going to look like 10 years from now. We may not even be able to say exactly what the world will be like 10 days from now. And we cannot continue to create a system, a structure of educating our children that is so limited by not only just our racism, our classism, our sexism, our ableism, but also our romanticization of a past or a previous type of way of learning. And I say that with the caveat that I'm not 1,000% for this, like, all digital. I definitely think that we need to figure out ways to make sure that people are communicating with people in person and not being internet brave. But I also think we need to equip our children for whatever the future is going to look like for them. And for me, that looks like really investing and ensuring that they have problem-solving skills, critical thinking capabilities, that they are leaning on creativity and imagination, because the answers are nowhere to be found. They're not written anywhere right now. In fact, this next few generations are going to be writing this as it's happening. And so when we talk about reforms, it's just going to allow us to add another program here or there, or move these chairs, or maybe do this and that. But it's never going to get us to the place where we're having deep conversations about what do we think the purpose of education is right now for the children who are going through it. What does it need to provide them? What do we need to be doing then to align with that purpose and that vision? Like, where do we pull the resources? What are the type of resources? Do these things need to happen in schools? How can we think creatively about making sure that there are different experiences, et cetera? And I know some of these conversations are coming up right now as school districts are trying to figure out whether we're going to be returning in person or online or some hybrid, and how we manage all of the different risks and opportunities that COVID-19 has presented. But I want us as stakeholders, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, an administrator, a board member, a community member, somebody's auntie, uncle, whoever, I want us as stakeholders to start thinking about what does the future of education need to look like, and what is our appetite for starting all the way over and creating something new. If we're going to pursue justice, particularly for communities that have always been denied access in our education system, we can't just say, okay, here, jump into the system and like now run your race from here. You can't hold people back for over 400 years and then demand that they perform in a system that you created with rules and structures that you designed to benefit yourself, and that they have no language of, and be successful. So we really need to start thinking, like, we cannot have an education system that's been built on the foundation of separate but equal, or, blacks and women are not actually human, that they're property and they should not be entitled to, don't have access to learning, etc. We have to actually start somewhere new on fresher foundation to ensure that every single child has access. I love what I do as an attorney representing families and schools. This is a newer thing in the school space, to figure out how we just create systems change there, rooted in equity and excellence, and actually using the law to protect innovation without sacrificing the rights of any child, right? So it's an interesting, exciting challenge to me. But the thing that really draws me to the work that I'm doing is that so many of the people I work with have historically, through the laws, been denied access to education, right? There was a time where we didn't want to educate students who had special needs at all. We were trying to find ways to move them out. Like, there's laws set in place to give them access because we were trying to prevent them. There was a time where we didn't want to educate undocumented children because unfortunately that's who we have been as a country. And there's a law, a case, a powerful case actually, that says no, they're here, they have to have access as well. There was a point in time where we didn't want to offer opportunities for women in schools. And so we have a whole Title IX set of regulations and a body of law to make sure that there is equal access there. And there was a time, and a very long time, and perhaps it's a still continuing time for all of those groups in ways, but there was also a time in this country where it was illegal to teach a Black person to read. So all of the groups that I work to support are people who have historically been denied access. And then I think also when we talk about class, even though it's not a protected class under the law in terms of like there's not some sort of special set of laws or regulations that ensure that you have access, but we cannot deny that class is something that keeps a lot of people back from moving up, and that there are ways in which we have designed our classrooms to reinforce someone's socioeconomic status. And so I really feel like, again, there's an opportunity for us to think expansively, for us to think innovatively, for us to be courageous and bold, and maybe even get it wrong and in the pursuit of getting it right for all children. And we're never going to do that if we just keep trying to reform or shift the seats at the table, as opposed to actually getting rid of the table and starting with something new. So that's my thought. I'd love to hear what you have to say or your thoughts as well. And if you want a little bit more from me, you want to join my network, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. We get on here every Thursday. And then for all of my parents, you can join my list and get my parent advocacy checklist by texting EDLAW to 917-905-8801. All right, well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the interwebs next week.